The place to be is living free in Tennessee.
Welcome to Living Free in Tennessee, where we talk about building the life you choose on your terms. Today is Friday, June 6, 2025, and this is episode 1045 of Living Free in Tennessee, and it's a Friday show, so of course we've got homestead happenings. I am pleased to say today, welcome to our Rumble viewers. If you have comments or questions on Rumble, I can now see them on my dashboard that is an amalgamation of all of the different places that we stream. So ask away. You know how you ask? You ask by putting the word question in all caps and then ask your question, or put comments in all caps and ask or say your comment. So today is Homestead Happenings Day, and I'm joined by the Tactical Redneck. How are you doing, Tactical?
There was the adventure of my coffee cup again.
Where did your coffee cup go on an adventure this time?
Well, I distinctly remember leaving it at the other end of the island. And I walked in, hit the button on the coffee maker, went to grab my cup, and it wasn't there. Because it was on my table on the porch.
Okay. So at least it was one of the places you actually put it. Okay. You thought you had a mosquito on your forehead, but
Here?
you don't. No, you're good. No.
Who knows? I was on the mower.
Yeah. He has random pieces of grass on his forehead.
Yeah.
Well, they're gone now. Oh, and one in his hair. That looks like dill.
No, that is elderberry.
Elderberry. He's got dried elderberry sticks. If there's any way for you to scoot forward and still be comfortable, about 6 inches, we'll actually, for once, both be in focus. Be super exciting. Anyway, so what are we going to talk about today? What we're going to talk about today is lots of fun things like lemon balm harvesting.
Yes.
And losing focus on the homestead and trying to regain your focus. And we had big talks about that the last few days because there's been a lot of interruptions this week. Is that a good way to explain it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and some of them urgent. So that's fun. I've got ear scab on the sheep, which is not, I think it's called rain scab or something. Rain. So I was over at the sheep yesterday, saw that. So we've got to start treating that today in between the thunderstorms and a whole bunch of other stuff. If there's anything you want to know from us on the homestead, as I said, just put questions or comments in all caps so I see it, I'll star it, and then we can do our best to work it into the show. It doesn't have to be about what we're talking about. Like if you're like, I just really want to understand how you organize your canned goods, then like put that question in. We'll be happy to do it. Also, be sure to let your friends know that we are live if you think they would enjoy this show. Before we go into our first combined topic that we discussed this morning, barely, let's talk about our featured event of today's show. Guess what it is?
I'm guessing hydro.
Yeah. So what's happening on Sunday, Tactical, at the Holler Homestead?
We're finally going to actually finish putting together the hydro system that started, what, 2 years ago? A year ago?
The tomato wall. The tomato wall grows tomatoes up the south side of my house. It's a wall of tomatoes that keeps the sun from hitting my house. And I have 3 big bay windows. Not bay windows, but 3 big picture windows across the south side of my house, which is the front of my house. 2 of them have a wall of tomatoes already there. Yeah. And 1 of them is naked. And it will not be naked after today.
Well,
Sunday. Yeah. So I decided we needed to do more meetups anyway here. So we're putting it together anyway. And we thought, well, some people really want to know how that works. So we'll just do an open house.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're going to have a 1 sheet to give out that has a list of supplies that we haven't put together yet.
Okay.
So maybe this evening over dinner, we could look at the supplies and list them on a piece of paper.
Okay.
So I was going to try to get him to do it in the car, but it's actually better if you can just be like, oh yeah, we use those and those and those, and that's all the things.
Yeah, I've got to actually look at it to be able to, or at least be able to close my eyes and picture it in my head.
Anyway, Sunday, 1 to 4 p.m. here at the Holler Homestead. It's an outdoor event. If it's raining, it's fine because we have a covered area. And we start from 1 to 2 with a potluck. So bring something to share if you can, but don't let not having the thing keep you from coming if you want to come. And then from 2 to 4, we're doing the put together part of it, and then you can go home in time to get ready for the week ahead. And that's RSVP, so I know how much iced tea to make over at livingfreeintennessee.com. I will have iced coffee and iced tea, unless it's on the cooler side, and then it'll be iced tea and hot coffee. So that could always change at the last minute.
Yeah.
Either way, I got to make a bunch of coffee and make it cold, or I got to make a bunch of coffee and make it hot. We also have 2 sponsors to thank. The first one is agoristaxadvice.com. I have been actually going over my business taxes this week. I went through them the first time and found a couple of discrepancies that turned out to be a glitch in the accounting software.
Oh.
That had already been, like, the accountant had already called last year when this happened, and they said it was fixed, and it was not fixed. But that was fun. So I'm glad I noticed that. She's like, I'm so sorry. I'm changing software. I can't have this happening. And I was like, I'm not mad. It's actually, like, sometimes that happens. But yeah, 2 years in a row. So, and I always think about Matthew from agoristaxadvice.com when I'm going over my business taxes, because he advised me on how I was structured and has made me aware of different tax write-offs I can take, so I keep more of my money in my pocket. That's what he can do for you too. And that's over at agoristaxadvice.com. What he can do is advise you guys. I can't promise you'll keep more of your money in your pocket if you're already optimizing your use of the tax code. But also, when you're starting a business, it's a great idea to talk to him about structure. He's about to get a really fun email from me. That's his heads up on the podcast about what we're putting together here at the Holler Homestead as we expand into welcoming more people onto the property at different times of year. So that's an exciting project, isn't it?
Yeah.
Are you excited about it?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Even an introvert is excited about that project?
Small doses.
Small doses. Okay, our second sponsor of today's show is germane to the weather. Today we're getting some super fun thunderstorms right now. I can hear them out there. In fact, if the feed goes out, it's because everything went out. And what happens when thunderstorms roll through is I don't get to go in my swim spa. Why don't I get to go in my swim spa? Because when there's lightning, you don't go out and get in water. Not a smart choice, even though it is properly grounded by our friends, our friend Matt, who did the wiring, and he made sure that was properly grounded because he knows, right? That's Senior Chief Electric if you're in the Sparta area. That guy does some really good work, and he's a good friend. Anyway, lightning happens. What happens when lightning hits wires?
Lots of fun things.
Lots of fun things. And EMP Shield at empshield.com has a device that helps protect on the other side of the device things that are plugged into the grid when stuff like that happens, when lightning hits, or perhaps the solar flares cause a bit of an electric whoopity-doop. And if it fails to protect your appliances on the other side of that, they have an insurance policy for up to $25,000 in replacement costs, which is the only device on the market that can help protect you that I know about that also has that kind of a guarantee. EMPshield.com. You can get $50 off a device if you use the coupon code LFTN, which is for Living Free in Tennessee. And then, of course, if for some reason you do have a catastrophic failure and your EMP Shield has helped you and saved all your devices, it will be dead. That's what it does. It sacrifices itself so that your appliances can live on. And you can send it in to them broken with $50, and they send you a replacement device. So I've always thought that's pretty cool too. So you don't have to spend another, $300 or whatever on a device at that time. It's really funny. It's Tactical sitting here writing on his shopping list. What do you need?
Highlighters, which I've forgotten to add to this list. Like, I lost count of how many times.
How many highlighters do you need?
I don't know.
Because, I got a whole fistful of them in my office. Do you just want one of mine?
Maybe.
Okay. Anyway, that was just funny. I was like, what's he doing over there on his phone while we're in the middle of a live stream? So the first thing I want to talk about today is a poisonous plant.
Hemlock?
Nope. I was walking and I noticed a really pretty flower, and the foxglove is blooming.
Oh.
Do you know herbally what foxglove is used for?
I seem to remember maybe It's one of the ones that you can take in small doses for short periods of time, but I don't remember what for.
Heart conditions.
Mm.
So they actually make an extraction or just, I don't know, like something from it in the medical world for heart conditions.
It's one where they stripped all the side effects out, isn't it?
No, digitalis, pack rats. So they make digitalis out of it. But foxglove has been used in the past herbally for heart conditions. And the way they would do it is they'd start small and ramp up until it helped, but not go too far. With digitalis, when they first started using digitalis, they killed some people because I think they just went, like, they didn't have a specific dosage in mind. So
dosages are useful.
Well, yeah, but they're just like figuring that stuff out. So foxglove is blooming, and if you are doing the herbal thing, just know that it's very poisonous if you have too much of it. You don't want to have too much of it. But that is what it's herbally been used for, and it's very, very, very not, it's not advised for you to just start going to eat the flower. But I saw it, and then I saw heart stuff, and then like I've had some heart stuff, and I was like, I wonder if it's talking to me on purpose. Because I've never noticed foxglove. So yeah, the effective dose is knife edge close to the lethal dose. That's, yeah. So there you go. Digitalis is a cardiac glycoside for arrhythmia, from Amy on the live stream. Thank you for throwing that in there. Last week we told you guys that it took 2 of us to get Clover's head out of the fence. And then what happened the very next day? Why are you on my counter? Get off my counter. Off the counter. Look, you just fell off the counter. Okay. So what happened?
Same place, same hole, same everything, 2 days in a row. I'm starting to wonder which is dumber, Clover or a turkey.
Anyway, did you have to cut her out?
Yeah, that was fun.
We had to cut her out with a grinder because we couldn't, like, we were able to get her out last time. I don't know if her chin got like 2 centimeters longer or her horns got 2 centimeters longer, but whatever the case, we could not get her back out. So yeah. So Amy says, can you disbud or dehorn a not young goat? I think it's possible. I don't think it's advised at this age.
Yeah.
But one of the things I love about our sheep is that they do not have horns. Now, I know other sheep do have horns. We're watching cat explosions everywhere. It's like the show is on, so all the cats are doing all the cat things.
Apparently.
Tigger will be out to talk to us later too. So yeah, so I really like the fact that the sheep can put their head through a fence and get their head back out because they don't have horns to get caught. But that's part of why our woven wire is not the square woven wire. It's the 2-inch by 3-inch woven wire. And that is because goats can't get their heads through it. But actually, it's kind of a non-issue now because goats don't wander the property, which is why I think some of our perimeter fence is not that. You've gone to the bigger squares, right?
Got some 4-inch by 4-inch.
Yeah, which is fine for sheep and dogs.
Yeah, I don't know if Clover could actually get her head through the 4-inch stuff.
Yeah, I don't know either. She used to. That was not the first time in the history of this goat that her head has been cut. So there's always something. So this is the thing. Like yesterday, I was in charge of the homestead by myself because Tactical was helping a friend move all day long. Yeah. And he had me set up really well. Like I didn't have to lug 10 gallons of water over to the sheep, which I can do, but I don't love doing. But I could do it, you know. If we had actual running water and hoses over there, that would be awesome. And that would be like other pasture developments that we own are going to have water service, so we don't have to do that. But I went over there flawless. Like the dogs did what the dogs were supposed to do. The sheep did what the sheep were supposed to do. I was able to observe the sheep and see that we had the ear scour thing happening. And then I went back home. And then Nighthawk helped me get that generator I couldn't lift by myself so that it was secure for the night. And then that was cool. And then he's like, "Do you got the rest of the animals by yourself?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course I have them by myself. No big deal. I just got to do the goats, make sure the rabbits have food and water, and put the ducks to bed and do the sheep over here." So I do the goats. I do the sheep, and I went out and I got some box elder, and I harvested some box elder for the goats so they'd have fresh greens in addition to their usual evening snack. And then I came inside, and I've been moving all of my email lists from MailChimp to MailerLite because I can go into one account from different websites and keep people separate, and it costs a lot less money, and actually there's some better features I'm experiencing over on MailerLite for like you guys who get emails from me. By the way, now is a good time to say sign up for the weekly mail at livingfreeintennessee.com. It goes to MailerLite. And I'd been setting it up, and I was missing a piece where I could like connect it and choose which group of people, because I don't want people who sign up for Self-Reliance Festival getting the Living Free in Tennessee email because they haven't signed up for that. Now, other people are just willing to go for it. I actually respect your choices on what you subscribe to or don't, because your inbox is precious. So I don't just put you on all my lists if you sign up anywhere. Not my thing. So I'm talking to my web developer friend Scott on the phone, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I have to reorient myself on MailerLite before I figure out how to do this." And Clover walks by in front of my window. Do you know what happened?
Roughly.
What do you think happened? What do you think happened?
I know where she ended up.
Yeah.
I have no idea what
she ended up back in the pastures where she ended up.
Yeah.
She was out. I haven't had a good goat got out story in a long time. She did not go on my roof.
Oh, thankfully.
Yeah. I had slammed the gate shut, and we have this latch that just like falls down automatically that did not automatically fall. And I didn't double check it. I was just like, okay, that's cool. And, you know, nobody was testing the gate because everybody was eating delicious box elder. And they were very excited about that. And then she came straight down the hill, straight to a box elder that we cut down last summer. That's now a box elder bush that I've been meaning to bring Clover down and to tether her to eat that because I figured she'd like it a lot. But she started eating that. So I was right.
I mean, better than any of the fruit trees.
Yeah. So she didn't get into anything she shouldn't have. She didn't get into my garden. She just like came straight to that box elder bush. It's like she gets out and she likes to tell me she's out. "Hey, Mom, I'm here." And then she goes and eats something usually that I want to keep. But this time she didn't do that. So we walked back leisurely, and I took her to a couple other nice spots where she could snack on stuff along the way. So it wasn't just like straight back in anger, you know, because with goats, you got to work with their nature. So I'm like, "Oh, and here's another good box elder you can eat that's a little closer to where we're about to put you." And then, of course, Wilma was following everywhere that Clover went.
Yeah.
And then Wilma ran straight back up to the pasture, ran through the door. She's like, "I guess it's time for us to go back now." And then we were fine.
Fortunately, she does not go very far from Clover.
Yeah, the problem with Wilma is we can't tether her. But
Yeah.
you can tether Clover and Wilma will hang out, but then you can't keep Wilma off the good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for those of you who were following last week, I baked something very special at the beginning of the week. I baked some coffee grounds and some wood chips in my oven. And I took a picture of it and it was like, "What do you think I'm doing?" And there were like a gajillion guesses, like soil, making weird brownies, all sorts of stuff. Couple of you got it. One person got the variety, but we're doing an experiment with using one of my waste streams I've always wanted to tap into better. I compost it now. I get a lot of failed coffee beans from the roasting shack at Holler Roast Coffee. Like if I burn beans, right, on accident or under roast them, then they get composted. And we have a lot of coffee grounds because somebody in this household drinks maybe 50 cups of coffee a day. Is that an exaggeration?
Slightly.
It's an exaggeration, but he does drink a lot of coffee. So I generate a lot of coffee grounds here. And then when we have events, we have a lot of coffee grounds. So I thought, well, hey, Matt, right there. This is the one who grounded my swim spa properly, just so you know, in case you're looking for an electrician. Anyway, I've been wanting for years to see if I could grow mushrooms in coffee grounds or coffee beans that had failed. And finally, I got motivated to try it, and I ordered the spores, and I set up a system. And because this is the thing, if you don't set up a system, it doesn't get done. So I set up a system where there's a dedicated part of my freezer where the coffee grounds go when they come out of the coffee machine. And then I needed to basically make sure they were sterilized before inoculating them. And then I learned that they would last longer as I was like going down the rabbit hole if I had wood chips that were 2 weeks or less old. And then my neighbor came by and said, hey, you want some wood chips that are 2 weeks or less old? I'm like, yeah. So I baked those too. And we got some blue oyster mushrooms going in a black bin. And in theory, within about 6 weeks, we'll get our first bloom if I'm successful. So right now I water it every day, or I check it every day, and we need to drill some holes in the side for them to bloom out of. They only need to be like that big though. Okay. So I can just use a 1 inch or a 1/2 inch. I think a 1 inch drill bit is what I want.
Might use the step down.
Yeah, I'll look. And I'm keeping it under the aquaponics system so I remember it exists, but it's also in the shade so it doesn't get too hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, so we'll see how it goes. And then, of course, what I discovered was a whole new mushroom growing system I could put up in the house, but I don't have anywhere in the house. But we'll see how much I really like it before I go spend $379 on a humidity and temperature controlled standalone unit shelf thing to grow mushrooms.
Okay.
Hey, we're starting the country store. We could sell mushrooms in the country store.
Okay.
Our inaugural country store is this weekend. If you want to sell something in the country store on Sunday, contact me via email, Nicole@livingfreeintennessee.com, and let me know. Otherwise, it's just a bunch of stuff we have. So like so far, I have pickle relish. I have coffee, of course. I have a thumbs up emoji. I have dried oregano. I have some lamb meat, and Tactical says he might have some things to add, but that's what we have so far. And I haven't talked to Nighthawk, but and I have a couple of like processing guides that will be sold.
Yeah.
And then I am going to tap into one of my local vegetable growers to see if he wants to just try some vegetables. We only have like 10 to 20 people coming this weekend, so it's just we're putting it up for the event and then pulling it back down. By putting it up, I mean it's a shelving area, right, with an honor system.
Yeah.
But the whole point of this was if you don't start something on your homestead, then you never get it done, right? Like I've been talking about this stupid stand for like how many years now, and I still haven't put it together. So that's the deal. So you just got to start, guys.
Yeah.
Anyway. So I was going to actually read something, but I need you to talk real quick. Oh, speaking of goats on the loose, there's a zebra that's still on the loose in Tennessee. And so what happened is these people got a pet zebra in, I don't know, Franklin. So I don't remember where they were in Tennessee. And it came, they put it in its place, like where it was going to live on a Friday night. And then by the next morning, the zebra was stopping traffic because it got out. And from what I understand, the zebra still is not home, although there have been sightings of the zebra and people are trying to help these people get their pet zebra back.
Some people, not so much.
And then, of course, it's the internet exists, and we all think it's funny that there's a zebra. There's somebody put out a map, and it says where zebras run wild, and it's like places in Africa and a single dot in the middle of Tennessee, right? And then everybody's making up stories about where the zebra's gone and putting their business in. So if you look at my Holler Roast thing, it's like, well, the zebra stopped by. I finally made it to the Holler for a cup of coffee. And then for the tomato build event this weekend, I had the zebra looking at the tomato wall. Looks like, and they're calling it Ed now. Like its name is Zeke, but everybody's renamed it Ed. And the people whose pet zebra it is put out a statement yesterday about how they appreciate everybody helping them, but they appreciate more all of the stories people have told them about lost pets. And it's kind of turned into a heartwarming story, actually, even though the zebra is still running around last I checked. So if you see zebra references, that's what's going on. It's just a funny local Tennessee thing. I've even seen people on my Facebook like, how do I turn off all the zebra posts? I'm like, you don't. You have fun with it. You need to remember to have fun on your homestead. You need to remember to have fun in your life. And it's really freaking funny that there's a zebra running loose in the state right now, just from a home. Like, because we get cows and goats running around the county all the time, but it's very rare that you get a zebra running around, right?
Cows, goats, horses, dogs.
Yeah.
Any form of livestock.
Yeah. It could be anything that is running here. Somebody will be like, there's a rabbit it's a domestic rabbit. We found a stray rabbit once here.
Yeah.
Remember when we found that stray domestic rabbit? You don't remember that? Yeah, so last year we ended up with an extra rabbit, or 2 years ago, because I was walking and I kept seeing this white rabbit with a brown spot. And then he was clearly domestic. Like, I just walked right up to him and picked him up, and we had him in a cage for a while.
What do we do with it?
He didn't find a forever home, so he found a forever home.
Okay.
Yeah. Because there's, you can only have so many rabbits around.
Yeah.
And that's what happens when you dump your animals off in the country, guys. Like, they're not necessarily just going to live in the woods. Like, yeah.
Either that or it just gets eaten by a coyote.
Amy says, Ed has inspired a movement. My brother-in-law has trimmed the hooves of zebras. Apparently they hiss and growl rather than whinny. Yeah, that could be super exciting. So anyway, that's been sort of the fun part of that. And Margot said hi to Matt. They're like childhood friends. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Margot listens to my podcast because of Matthew.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I appreciate that reference. Margot's been a really good, she's turned into a friend over the years. It's kind of cool. Okay. We had our first day of rest in the holler last weekend. How'd that go for you? It was Saturday. Saturday was our day of rest. So to set up for that, we got all the animals rotated, went into Saturday, ready to go. Did you rest on Saturday, Tactical?
Yeah.
What did you do?
I don't even remember everything that happened. I just remember there was water pump chaos.
That wasn't till Sunday.
Was it?
Yeah.
I don't even remember what happened Saturday.
He legitimately didn't work. He poked around at plants and legitimately took a whole day of rest. And as a result of it, how did you feel mentally Sunday morning?
I mean, Sunday I remember feeling all right. I was a little rushed to get out the door, but just because schedule shifted around. Yeah.
But do you think we should keep doing a day of rest on Saturday?
Yeah.
Do you think it'll stay on Saturday? Or do you think we're going to not?
I don't know. I'm still scrambling today to try to catch back up with a couple of things and really hoping that this rain stalls, because I managed to get all of the mowing that I wanted, I think, done. Yeah,
before people can come here, we needed to mow so they could actually walk into the outhouses without wading through grass up to their thighs, right?
Yeah.
It was actually up to their knees. So
it wasn't that high over here. In the pasture, yes.
Yeah. No, in front of that outhouse it was. You had knee high. Mm-hmm.
I guess I forget that some people are
shorter than he is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So do you think you'll be able to take a day of rest tomorrow?
I'm probably going to have to do something.
Okay.
I don't know what that's going to look like, but I don't anticipate getting the girls moved today.
Okay.
But moving the girls tomorrow will be relatively easy.
Is it like an hour long or is it 2 hours long?
It'll be like 20 minutes.
If I help you at the end of the day in the rain, can we move them?
Probably.
I'd help you so that you get your day of rest.
I mean, say we look at the weather Because if it's
I don't care about getting rained on because I'm going to take a shower right after that if we do it.
Well, it's more being halfway up the side of a mountain
with lightning
underneath really large trees that have already been struck by lightning.
So when I looked at the weather, it kind of looked like the lightning part of the day ends about 5 o'clock. And then we get the rain part of the day.
Yeah,
so if it does that, I will help you. And then you can have your day of rest.
I'd say we see what it looks like later in the day.
So I have this conversation in front of you all because that's how we have to work here to get a day of rest on the homestead. It often means 2 of us are doing the other person's job. And then the other person's also helping me do my job. Like that's what happened last Friday is we both kind of had to, and then it got done and then it was fine.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed, Matt says Sundays are good for a day of rest. Matthew, not here. We actually do better with Saturday for a couple of reasons. One is because I'm a rhinoceros and I work pretty like straight through. And so by Saturday, I'm pretty tired. And so if I take a day of rest Saturday, I get like true rejuvenation. If I do it Sunday, what happens is the rest of my week falls off the rails. So Sunday, I like to, in the evening, have at least put in the time to figure out all of like maybe pre-roasted coffee that ships Monday and then figure out all the things. So what we're doing here is we're trying Saturday as the day of rest. Of course, church is still Sunday morning. Yeah. So that is what it is. But then that means Saturday afternoon, we do things like have the meetup that we're doing this week or whatever other Sunday project.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, like if we do it for 2 months and it's like, Matt, this isn't working, we'll change days.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was sort of what we talked about as we were going into the build it in. But it does mean that I'm happy to help you move girls this afternoon, even if it's raining. I don't even care. I do care about lightning.
Yeah.
Like I won't do stupid stuff, but
yeah,
a little rain never drowned this duck from Oregon. Yeah. Okay. I finally got to the thing I wanted to get to because I wanted to read y'all something that I sent out on the Self-Reliance Festival email. And it's I'm meaning this as a reminder. And if you're not on that email, you didn't get it. So you probably didn't start this journey thinking you'd end up milking goats or building a solar dehydrator. Most people come to preparedness because they want to be ready when the system fails. But the longer you're in it, the more it makes sense to grow food than to store it, to build systems instead of stockpiles, and to live in a way that supports itself. Ultimately, it's about getting your time back. You get your time back to be with your family and true friends and to build the life you actually want to live. That vision of freedom is at the core of self-reliance, but too often it feels out of reach. The job eats up your energy and your best hours while the dream of living off your land drifts into someday. Here's a shift that changes everything. Build your home or your homestead with profit in mind, even if you don't need the income right now. Joel and Daniel Salatin have taught this for years through sharing their evolution of polyface farms. Brooke Whipple rolled out her homestead in stages, letting Project 1 fund Project 2. Nicole Sauce has a homestead revenue stack that lays it out in layers from product income to scalable digital streams. And Tag from Life Done Free has designed his place from the ground up to make water, power, and other things completely free. So that's his definition of free is free everything. This isn't just about launching a business, though. It's about designing every part of your life, from fencing to food forests to family meals, in a way that 1, pays you back, either in cash, connections, or freedom. 2, lets one project fund the next or fund your life. And 3, frees you up to live intentionally instead of on somebody else's terms. Yes, it's hard work. You may work more hours now than ever when you get into this, but the work flows into your future, not your boss's. And that shift means everything. There's just one catch. You've got to track it. Track your time, track your savings, track the value of what you grow, build, barter, or preserve. And that's how you build your independence fund, the money you don't have to earn or get taxed on elsewhere. That's how you know if your homestead is moving you closer to real freedom or just keeping you busier than a honeybee in October getting ready for winter. You don't need to run it like a business, but you should build it with intention and start with the end in mind, as we would hear from our friend Franklin Covey. So what are you doing this week to make your home or homestead more productive? I put home or homestead in there because just because you don't have land doesn't mean you can't plan how your home works with profit in mind, even if what that profit is saving you money so you don't have to spend more money elsewhere. I bring this topic up with Tactical in the room to A, hear his thoughts on it, but B, what are y'all working on and how do you track what you're doing on the homestead? Because as we've gotten further into this homestead, I find that we need to track more what we're doing so we can evaluate if the lamb is profitable for us, either in keeping us from buying meat or in the actual sales of the meat we do. If raising ducks really makes sense for the eggs we get, because there's a lot of, there's time invested in that and a whole lot of other things. And we have found, I've found as I've started looking deeper, some things are more profitable than others, but sometimes the profit on something is a community connection or relationship or time. Like there are other ways to measure wealth than pure cash. But if you don't keep the cash in mind, what I see happening is getting pulled into being overly cheap on things at the expense of your time and relationships. And that's why I bring it up, because your relationship's failing because you don't bother to spend the time investing in the relationships that are most important to you, is not building you the life. Like, you're not going to bring your really prized tomato with you when you die. You know what I'm saying? So what do you think about that?
Yeah. And I just had a conversation with somebody about not having a job presently and feeling bad about not doing work. And it's like, separate those two words, job and work, two different things. And the context of that conversation was different, but I think you can apply the same concept to profit off of the homestead. It's not necessarily how much money are you bringing in, it's what else are you bringing in? Because when I look at, the food that's coming out of the raised beds, you can't buy the nutrients that's in those plants in anything you're going to get in the store. So it's not just a monetary thing. There's other aspects to it as well. And same thing with, your time. I just said yesterday, it's like, I've gotten animals down to be as efficient as I possibly can. And absolute minimum time required, which means that the rest of the time that I spend with the animals is because I want to. So I will absolutely get on the four-wheeler and go over to the pasture just to hang out with everybody for a few minutes and pet the dogs and talk to the sheep. And, the mental reset that I get from that is phenomenal. So, to me, there's a lot more wrapped up in that than just the profit side, like from a business standpoint. But the business standpoint is also important, because what you don't want to end up doing is forking out, hundreds or thousands of dollars a month to be able to, have some eggs and a little bit of lettuce.
Yeah.
And working yourself to death to be able to get it. It's the opposite of what you should be doing.
My first year homesteading, I was also part of a shared grocery buying club called Morningside that doesn't exist anymore here, where you could pre-order once a month your groceries and go pick them up at Morningside, which is similar to what we're talking about doing here. Yeah. And they were sourced from all over the United States. That's how I got organic wheat berries when I was eating wheat at the time. And the cool thing about that is you also when you went to pick it up, you came across other farmers and homesteaders who cared about regenerative growing practices. And the people who hosted it had been organically raising food, like beyond organic, in this area since the 70s. So then I also learned about plant varieties. I didn't know what permaculture was at that time. And they were integrating regenerative practices into their farm for sure. And I remember asking the man, what do you do to get peaches? And he was like, I grow sour cherries here, Nicole, because peaches don't do well in this area. And so why fight it? You should just grow what does well here.
Yeah.
And then we have this shared buying club, and we'll get peaches from Georgia.
Yeah.
If I want a peach, right? So that stuck with me a lot. That's what started me down the path where I ultimately discovered permaculture. But part of what he was doing when he shared that with me is he was sharing how to be cognizant of your time and energy and effort so that what you're working on your homestead on is worth it. But the other thing I saw is that this time of year in Tennessee, when you see a homesteader who's working really hard, they look like our friend Mike looked last week.
Yeah.
Just exhausted. It's like the weeds are over my head. The rain won't stop. Like I need it to stop, or the rain won't come. I need it to come. You know, like there's always something. And it's about this time of year where you're like, why do I do this? If you're tracking, you'll figure out why. Or you'll figure out what has to change. Like I know 2 things that could change in the pasture that would make animals even more efficient to run. And when he gets involved in my stuff, he's like, I see where we could be efficient there. Now we may or may not implement those changes anytime soon, but because they would take some work up front, but they could shave a little time every day, and that can add up pretty quickly.
Yeah, and that's, kind of the point is, when we started with the pasture, it was excruciating, and I feel like I spent about 8 months doing nothing but clearing and running fencing. But it's to a point now, this is literally like I would move the sheep and then immediately start clearing to set up their next paddock. And at this point, it's down to, I've already got a bunch of stuff. I basically set 4 paddocks up at once. And so to move them today is literally, I've got to get in, open the fence up, get them through, grab their water bowls, take their water bowls to the top of the hill, fill them, and they're done.
Yeah. While I'm babysitting the dogs eating their food.
Yeah.
That's what will make it go faster.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's, 2 years ago when I was helping him, it was like, run this line. No, don't run it that way. Run it this other way. Get these posts in. No, don't put the post there. Put it this other way. And it was brutal, but it is way better now that it's been done time and again. Margot says, I've stopped trying to grow things that do not grow here. I was wasting time and money trying over and over. Yeah. That's the thing is I allow myself to try a thing or two a year that don't grow here, and usually they die. The only thing that hasn't really died is the bananas. We're not going to get bananas from the bananas, but I have a really pretty banana grass. It's a grass, actually.
Yeah.
But we call them banana trees that I thought was going to be gone after last winter. No, it went down to the roots, but it had been established long enough that I have a bunch of little banana poke-ups. And that just makes me happy to look at the banana leaves, and I can use the banana leaves for cooking. So, but that's a whole different topic that will be for a different show. But, I know that my time spent on that banana is not exactly the most profitable use of time from a money standpoint or even a relationship development standpoint, but it actually makes me happy that I have the banana. And so that's a happiness payoff for me. It's just, you got to balance all those things. And I think we get people all excited about homesteading and we're like, this is how you do it cheapest. And then we set them up for failure. Now, all of us who are homesteaders say do one thing a year. And none of us who are homesteaders do that. Right?
No.
Right. So, and then we're there to like pat them on the back and let them cry on our shoulders when they're like, I'm overwhelmed. I'm like, of course you are. You started 4 different kinds of livestock. Your first year homesteading. So, yeah. Debbie in Texas says banana trees make me happy too. I will have a coffee tree here one day. My long-term plan is to have somewhere in my house that is sort of like a terrarium sort of thing, not a terrarium, but like a, I don't know, like a glass room.
Yeah.
Anyway, a greenhouse-ish thing. And one day that's where the coffee tree will go. And I will get great joy in growing a coffee tree for a number of years until I'm sick of it. And then I will probably just have normal plants in there. That's the trajectory I predict that will take. So, yeah. Okay. So the reason when I asked him how his day of rest went and he brought up weird water problems is that the day after his day of rest was Sunday. So started the day at church and then we went over to Carrie's meetup in Knoxville, which I consider like, it's not work, but it is work. Right.
Yeah.
So, and I got to meet a bunch of really cool people there. I got to re-meet people I'd already met. A couple of them had to remind me that we already met once because it was a year ago. So sorry, guys. I got to hear what people were working on their homesteads and just to see the progress at Carrie's homestead. Because the last time I was there, it was pitch black and I didn't really look. Tori says conservatory. Yeah, that's the word I was trying to think of. And then we drove home and we got to stop by a friend's birthday party on the way home. That was cool. So we were basically gone from the house together for 12 hours. And the reason we were able to do that is that Nighthawk agreed to just rotate my dogs out and then see to the evening animals if we weren't home on time, which we weren't.
Yeah. That was like 15 minutes short of 12 hours.
Yeah. So we got home and the first thing I wanted to do was wash my hands. And I turned on the faucet and there was no water. And we've just replaced the pump. And I was like, oh no, maybe the new pump was not a good pump. And it's now, I don't know, pushing 8 o'clock on a Sunday night. And like, I can live without water. We've got outhouses and I can like go wash my hands somewhere else in the creek or whatever. So it's not the end of the world if that happens and we have stored water. But it's really convenient to have water in your house. And so finally, so I text Tactical and I'm like, so did you know there's no water? And he was like, no, because he was putting the ducks to bed. And I was like, yep, no water. And then he turned on the water from the pump. So he went down, checked, the tank was half full. So there was no reason for there not to be water. Turned the water on and I heard my toilet run when he did that. And then it went off again. And then I went over and turned off the water to my toilet, pulled the tank off, and the flap on my toilet was stuck up. So here's what happened. I was like, I think I know what happened. What happened, he walked in after that. He's like, I think you were going to tell me if it was up and running again or whatever. I'm like, dude, I think I know what happened. I peed before we left because I'm a responsible human being and you don't get in the car having to pee and then try to drive an hour. And I flushed the toilet and the flap got stuck up. And what happened while I was gone for 12 hours is water just ran the whole time until there was no water and it caused the pump to turn itself off rather than burn out. And then the pump was off and was not going to turn on again when it does that. So then the refill pump refilled half of it by the time we got back.
Yeah.
So now on my checklist before I leave is pee, then check that the flap is down again. Maybe I should just repair that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What happened is during my workshop or right before it, the flushing knob thing like disassociated itself from the actual arm inside the back. So I need to get a new knob with the arm. That's what I need.
Okay.
And I haven't been at a hardware store and I needed to go to the hardware store to look at different ones to figure out which one I actually want.
Okay.
Which I meant to do last Tuesday. Or 2 Tuesdays ago when we were doing all of but then you didn't want to go to Lowe's and I forgot why I wanted to go to Lowe's. So it'll be done. Now I just flush and then I go like this to put it back. So, but that was a fun one.
Yeah.
Are you exhausted? Or did you just not want to think about toilet arms? Does that make you feel like you have to fix it for me when I say stuff like that?
I don't even know if I was aware that was broken during the workshop. I don't think I was.
It was broken right before the workshop, and I may have said it in passing, but I was like, it works. It still flushes. I don't care. Because this is the first workshop where we didn't have a catastrophic plumbing problem happen during the workshop.
No, we just had a door problem.
Yeah. Tori says our toilet runs too randomly if we don't jiggle the handle. I'm constantly listening for the water running too long. Yeah. I just redid all the inside guts of my toilet to stop stuff like that happening. But then right after that happened, the little flush arm thing went away. So I noticed you've been getting interrupted on your phone a lot lately on the homestead. Speaking of losing focus, how does that work for you when you get all the text messages all day long?
Depends.
Yeah.
When I have literally 3 people at once, it gets a little complicated, which was this morning.
Yeah. He had the thing happen where 3 of us, and I am one of the guilty parties, were asking him questions at exactly 9 a.m. today.
Which is exactly the time that I'm starting the primary block of my morning routine.
So the way he has combated drift of focus is at 9 o'clock, specific things start happening. And I was like, but we need to talk about this. And then other people were texting him, and he was like, oh, and I was like, okay, just go do the things. But what's a solution for not having that happen at 9 o'clock?
I try to ignore what I can ignore.
That's my solution.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
And then there's no comms.
Well, how do you have comms for emergencies with your phone off?
We don't.
I bet we could set it up over your phone, first of all, but we could also set it up with the help of Radio Made Easy.
Okay. When that happens, I'll think about turning my phone off.
Yep. Matthew says I'll call less, LOL. Did you also call at 9? That means 4 people were contacting you all at one time.
Wait, who, what?
Matthew says he'll call less. No, it's okay to call.
No,
it's okay to call. I'm just suggesting that I have been having, for the last 4 weeks, a wonderful time putting my phone in silent mode. And when I know you're over at the pasture, I take it out of silent mode in case there's an emergency. But then I put it back in silent mode for things, or I walk away from it completely. So I agree there needs to be a way for comms on the homestead for emergencies. But I can also tell you I've gotten a lot more of my deeper thinking done without interruption.
Yeah.
Because I did that.
I'm also at a point to where I also have to have my phone on me, if for no other reason than it has all of my list on it.
Yeah.
And
it's like we need to make it so you can go into I'm sleeping mode where the notices don't show.
Yeah.
Unless you say like, this is like a Zello message from Nicole when she knows I'm in silent mode means that I actually need to like come get her out from under the shelf that just fell on her or whatever could happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or by the way, the goats are out and I need help. Or because there's not a lot of emergencies that happen here anymore. It used to be a lot more urgent, but things still happen.
Yeah.
Last week, I went down to the mailbox and I opened it up, and a whole bunch of ants and white larvae started running around and moving their larvae. So I left both flaps were open, and Tactical came up and he was like, has somebody been messing with the mailbox? And I was like, oh, you mean because the flaps are open? That was me. I was on my walk. I saw that there were ants. I opened the flaps so they'd leave so I could get the mail without getting ants all over me. And then I got the mail on my way back. And then I left the flaps open so that the ants wouldn't be in there because they don't like to be exposed to the light. And then I roasted my coffee, and I put the little note in there that tells the mailman to pick up my coffee boxes at a different location. And I came back down, and both flaps were still open. Mail was in the box, and my little note was on the ground. And I'm like, I think what happened here is the ants got under that note. The mailman picked it up and went, ee! And the thing just got thrown out, and he threw the mail in there and kept going.
I don't think he went E.
Yeah, he probably didn't go E. But, I like to think he went E because it's a much more entertaining story that way. So I got the orange oil that I use for fire ants, and I sprayed the crumbs out of the whole system. And then I left a note in there, and I said, just picture, I said, did you know orange oil melts the exoskeletons of ants? Picture 1,000 little voices screaming as their exoskeletons melt. That wasn't very nice. But we don't have ants in the mailbox anymore. And we didn't have to use Raid. I actually only left that note so the mailman would know what he was smelling from my mailbox was orange oil and not something toxic. Because I didn't want him to think it was like some weird orange scented Raid that he had to now be careful of. You know, I don't know if he cares or not. So I had a talk with Paul Wheaton yesterday.
Okay.
And it was because I sent out a note. So we're launching a coffee pre-buy officially next week. It's already soft launched on hollerroast.com. And it's because my air conditioner needs to be replaced. Total cost for that's about $2,000 when I include the purchasing of the new mini split. The person installing it is trading me time for something else that's about a $600 value. And all told, it's about because it's coming from a different business unit than Holler Roast. All told, I need to raise about $2,000 in profit to offset the replacement of the air conditioning. So we are doing a pre-buy with a goal of $8,000 of coffee pre-bought by people who love coffee. And that's launching on Monday. So then I reached out to friends because we're kind of doing it Kickstarter style, but it's not using the Kickstarter system. And like if you pre-buy $100 in coffee, what'll happen is you immediately get a gift card that you can use that same day on hollerroast.com. And then you're going to get access to some perks. So some digital downloads, that sort of thing. And Paul has pitched in for $200 and more a PDC that they recorded over there. And I'm pretty sure that means Alan Booker was involved. But I'll have to verify that. And then they also have the technology. It's called an ACT, which is 123 hours of permaculturally stuff for people to learn about. $200 pre-buy or more. I was like, that's very generous. And he's thinking about if he's going to kick something in at the $1,000 level. That's really, really, really cool. But those are the things that he kicked in. Jack has thrown in 2 courses at homefoodsystems.com, but that's not, it's like the first 2 people when we release that, the first 2 people who buy get the courses, and then that's limited in that way. MT Knives has thrown in he has a guide to making sharpening knives.
Beyond Razor Sharp.
Right. It's not Beyond Razor Sharp. It's a guide. It's a ebook that he's thrown in. If you buy $1,000 pre-buy, you get $100 in extra gift cards. If you buy a $500 pre-buy, you get $25 immediately in your inbox. Any of these, you get the gift card. Like if you're like, I'm going to buy coffee, but I want to support the pre-buy, and then you can use your gift card for your first buy, and you can use it until it's gone. I'm doing it this way rather than through Kickstarter, so I don't have to issue the gift cards, so that it's attached to your email, so that when you email me 6 months from now asking how to access your $1,000 card, I can look it up by your email and give you the proper number. I had this last time I did a Kickstarter, I had a really long spreadsheet. So I'm pretty excited about that. But while I was on the phone with Paul, we sort of came up with some ideas of other ways we could work more closely together. So Paul he communicates a little differently now than he did 2 years ago. Okay. And I wonder, like he had cancer, and I'm wondering if that has he's ADHD, obviously, like I am, but he's like a lot more like boom, boom, boom. This is what's up. So it was a great conversation. He asked me what 3 crops I would grow if I could only grow 3 crops for survival. And my first answer was grass. And he's like, oh, that's interesting. I'm like, hey, dude, I eat meat. Yeah. And the grass is what my sheep. I was like, I should have said pasture. Yeah. Can you keep my gift card and take my monthly off? I can figure out how to do that, Margot. I don't know how I'm going to do that, but yes, I'm sure that could happen.
Now, my next question is, why can I only grow 3 crops? Why am I limited to 3?
So he was just, it's an exercise in what are your top 3 priorities, really.
Okay.
Yeah, so it wasn't so much that you can only, it was just sort of, you put parameters in. I went for sweet potatoes, pasture, and green beans because I like green beans, and you can grow them beyond that and get dried. Yeah, so.
Okay.
But really, I said sheep, green beans, and sweet potatoes, which means you wouldn't have any spice at all. But yeah, the other reality is we grow so many more things here. He's like, yeah, Egyptian walking onions just replicate themselves. I'm like, yeah, I do have those all over the property. In fact,
I need to move on
it's
more
time.
places.
It's time to plant Egyptian walking onions. Oh,
Yeah.
we could sell some of those at the country store.
Yeah.
Egyptian walking onion starts. High five. Yeah. Anyway, so I want to talk to you about something. Do you need to go?
Okay. No.
Okay, you look antsy.
Eh.
The show's officially over about now, and I'm going a little long today.
I had to stand up.
Oh, you had to stand up because your back hurt. Okay. You know what? We need to harvest lemon balm.
Okay.
Do you know why I haven't harvested lemon balm?
Because I'm the only person that knows how to get to it
Because
without breaking
a
something.
6'4" man designed the stairway that goes down the rocks.
It's not a stairway. It's a stack of rocks.
Footpath that
It's
goes.
not a footpath. It's a pile of rocks that aren't gonna fall.
All I'm suggesting is we might want to look at some places that have been beautifully designed by you for access that are not accessible for the shorter people who like to help you in your life. Some key areas that come to mind are that area, and getting down to the duck coop comes to mind.
I need an excavator for that.
Okay. I know an excavator, dude.
Yeah, well.
Anyway, grass being knee-high for me is not knee-high for you.
Well.
Which doesn't matter in the grass, but when it's up and down the rock, it's the down that's the part that's the problem.
I need an excavator to fix that one.
Anyway, I was just thinking perhaps we could audit things and decide where it's actually important to do that versus not. Like if I'm only going down something twice a year, it does not matter.
Yeah.
But like if I'm getting mom to help me close the ducks, it kind of matters. When Lynn helps us close the ducks, it does not matter because she's a 6'4" woman. I think. I don't know if she's actually that tall, but she's very tall.
I can do some impressive things shoving a rock down a hill, but there's another whole level of getting the rock up and out from the pond area, up the hill, and then stacking it over there, which is what I need to fix.
Yeah, well, and that should be done with an excavator, 100%.
Well, it has to be done with an excavator.
Right. Well, says the man who moved by himself with a breaker bar, an outhouse.
There was a 4-wheeler involved with that.
Amy says, Paul's solar dehydrator is a dream build. In fact, that's one of the perks is plans. It's a video about how to make the solar dehydrator with the rocket mass assist. Okay. Pretty darn cool. I told him I'm kind of interested in building one here to see how it works in the high humidity. Yeah. He did not chop a finger off moving that. Show them your fingers. Do you have all your fingers?
Yes.
Both hands?
Not even damaged.
Not even damaged. No hurt. Other than that, what have you seen in the area that's ready for harvesting as far as herbal goes? Because yarrow, lemon balm, the black raspberries were totally ripe, but the blackberries are not yet. What else?
Passion flowers on.
Oh, passion flower.
Pasture.
Cool. You're gonna harvest some?
I
want to run up there right now and get it?
No.
It's pouring down rain, guys.
Yeah. Some people will understand when I say more rain.
More rain, yeah.
But I saw the vines all over on the upper half, and then I was coming down at some point in time this week and saw one of them had like 2 or 3 flowers on it. I didn't stop to look, but they are actually flowering now.
Yeah. So next week, we're going to be really focusing on the sheep ear scab. If it is just from the rain, which like if it never dries out, they start getting an infection, then putting lanolin on it works. And we have lanolin.
Yeah.
So that involves catching sheep and putting lanolin on their ears, which they absolutely love. And then I'm going to get some good pictures of it and verify through some other sources if that's what it is. I know that's what it was for little sheep about this time of year last year. She got it. So the only thing is it's on the inside, so I'm concerned about my mites. So we'll see. But, you know, like all of the bug pressure has like ramped way up in the last 2 weeks, including the need to audit where we have standing water because there are a lot more mosquitoes here than there traditionally have been. So every time I see a bucket in the yard, I dump it and put it upside down right now. Okay. And the one place I'm not sure what to do about is how we're watering the goats. So I have some ideas on how I can help with that.
Okay.
Because if we can get a rotation of me scrubbing those out, then there's not water in them long enough for the mosquito larvae to get started.
Okay.
Yeah, but the tub is the tub. We could put a fish in there. Is the tub full?
I have no idea.
Like that's got plug?
That thing's cracked on the bottom.
Okay, so we'll
I don't know if the muck sealed the crack or not, but either way, I want to get that thing out of there.
Okay, so we have a giant thing. Amy says, wool sheep make lanolin, hair sheep do not. Correct. But I have a nice little thing of lanolin. So what are your secrets for growing lemon balm and oregano? I have a pretty comprehensive garden, but getting herbs started has been elusive. I don't know that I have secrets, but I used to have trouble growing oregano in Oregon, and it was because I let it dry out too much originally. So until it gets established, it's not necessarily going to do well. The oregano on my property that's doing best was planted in October, which is not when they tell you to plant it. If you plant it right now, you need to water it like on the regular. Don't let it dry out. And realize that once you get it established, it is going to take over everything.
Yeah. So all the oregano that I put in was not really paid attention to at all. But when I put it in, I made sure that I had at least some form of compost, something for nutrient and or microbiology. And then I use pine shavings and heavily mulch the whole area around it. And it's all in sections in between rocks. So from rock to rock is mulched in. So there's not really any evaporation that's going to happen. And I just let it go and do what it wants. And then now we're at the point where I've actually got to start cutting it back because it's trying to crowd out other things.
Yeah, and that's the other thing I was going to say is give it plenty of space to be itself. Mulch always helps. Like I have all of my raised beds mulched. The funny thing is we were talking about investing your time in the garden. I can tell you that like the raised beds took time to install, but from a garden maintenance standpoint, I'm spending maybe half an hour to an hour a week on the garden, except for that, like when I plant things or harvest things, that takes a little bit longer. And I am keeping up on the harvest, and we're talking about soil that was not composted to the point where the weed seeds were eradicated. So like we're getting actual random weeds from just using soil from the ground, right? It's the maintenance of this garden has been great once I got it started, and we'll see how it goes through the summer. I am going to automate the watering on that too. So I have one bed with automated watering ish. And we have 3 more beds that need to have that set up.
Yeah. Even the spots where I'm growing stuff, quote, in the ground and somewhat of what people would think of as a traditional garden, is not, because it's all, with our terrain, there are rock walls, so there are hard edges where stuff does not grow, kind of like a raised bed. And I am totally over, like, I'm gonna plow up this acre and plant the whole thing. Like, no, I want edges. I want a hard line of here's where the weeds go and the grass goes, and on the other side of that line, there should only be things that I want there.
The other thing to say about the oregano that's doing well here is it's getting partial shade.
Some of it.
So this is in Tennessee. It gets partial shade. Can't think of any that's just full sun all the time. That's
the
done
rock
well.
garden.
No, that gets partial shade from the
When?
the tree, the walnut tree.
It gets partial shade at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
It gets some protection from morning sun, and then at 4 o'clock in the afternoon it gets shade. If you have it in the middle of my yard that's full on sun all day long, it gets extra hours. So
Okay.
I think that makes a difference here. In how they're, like, in my food forest, there was oregano down on the lower swale.
Still is. I saw it.
Yeah, that's not doing as well as the oregano on the upper one, which gets more shade. So,
Okay.
and I'm answering somebody's question about how to get it established. And the answer is, I think, like, you don't want to just put it under stuff for partial shade, but partial shade is not terrible for oregano specifically.
Okay.
The sage I have growing is doing well in full sun. And it comes from a plant I put in my aquaponics system that has since died. So the other thing we are doing with herbs here is he's constantly every year he pulls from different herbs, cuttings, and roots them and puts them other places. We have some plants that are fine year after year after year, but they do occasionally just like croak on us. And then there's always other plants because we're just constantly propagating. So it's kind of like saving tomato seeds here, where we get different patches of oregano going. And then if that one on that one swale is bad, then the one on the other swale is here, or the ones in the rock garden are here, or the ones down on the pond are there. So, and as far as I'm concerned, you can't have too many herbs growing on your property. Like, it's the worst thing that'll happen is they're just there and they're herby. So, yeah, I will try starting it inside and transplanting in partial shade. Yeah. Do you have any started that we could sell on Sunday?
Yes.
So oregano or what?
I've got oregano, thyme, and a couple other things.
So I mean, we could also, like, we've got some herbs that will probably be in the store if he's not.
I've also got, like, oregano is one where I can go out to a plant and just pull the edge of one plant off with the roots and just cut it off, and it's already rooted. Yeah,
so that would be a way to source a locally adapted plant if you're kind of close to me. So, which is not terrible.
Yeah.
Again, this time of year, transplanting's not the best time of year, so they're going to want a little extra support.
I planted stuff last summer.
Yeah, right. But they need a little extra support.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
I mean, when I did that, I was hitting it with compost tea pretty regular on the start, but it's not like it's not possible.
Yeah, Packrat says a recent revelation that full sun means like 6 hours. Yeah. I'm from Oregon. Full sun meant like find the sunniest, absolute sunniest place in your yard and hope that you got a tomato in September, right? It's not quite that bad, but close. So then I put all of my garden stuff in full sun here, and I had a couple years of very stressed out plants. And then I learned about shade cloth. So anyway, that's the show for today, guys. If you want to support the show and like the work we're doing here, you can do it in 2 ways. 1, get your coffee at Holler Roast. Don't forget, we're doing the pre-buy. If you want to find the pre-buy right now, because it's not on the homepage until Monday, go to hollerroast.com and click on coffee shop, and you'll see the item. We are starting to fill in the perks by level today, and then so you can kind of see what you get in addition to it. But there's some basic explanation on there right now. Also, you can become a member by heading over to livingfreeintennessee.com to sign up. With that, go out. Make it a great week.